Welcome to Q Master Class 28 September 2021 on Q Elite installation. I am Sagar Nandi. You already have my detail. Disclaimer. Disclaimer, I am not an investment advisor. This demonstration is for educational purposes only. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. By the way, I hope you are able to hear me and see my screen. You may let me know using the chat panel. I'll continue. In the Q Master class, we are going through all the Q components one by one. Today, I'm going to cover installation of Q Elite, the technical analysis system on TradeStation. That is here. Installation of Q Elite on TradeStation. These are the topics I'm going to cover. This is not a complete installation, complete training on Q Elite. It is only on installation of Q Elite. This will be the topics: how to download the latest version, installation, then activating the license for Q Elite, validating that the installation is successful. And while going through a few PowerPoint slides on these topics, I'll walk you through the actual installation of Q Elite and also the alternate component of Q Elite. Q&A is not at the end of the session. You may ask questions anytime, either using the chat panel, or you may unmute yourself if you would like to. Let's begin. Download. You may download the latest version of Q Elite, as is true for all the other Q systems, from the personalized download page, clients.sagarnandi.com/customer. This link is actually on the website sagarnandi.com. I'll use that link to log in. Then you download Q Elite first, and if you have access to the alternate Q Elite component, that is the momentum signals with HSI like indicators, then you may download that as well. It is recommended to download the Q Elite for the latest version of TradeStation, which is 10.0, that is always kept up to date. If for some reason you are using 9.5 TradeStation, then you may download Q Elite for 9.5 and Q Elite 2 for 9.5. However, they may not always be exactly in sync with 10.0. 10.0 is the recommended version and the latest version of TradeStation. Let's download it now. On the website sagarnandi.com, there is a top menu bar, this green download button. If you click that, it will allow you to log into your personalized download page. Let me do that. Entering the personalized download page, login ID and password. Once you download, you will find the components for which subscription is active. For Q Elite, the two components are Q Elite and Q Elite 2. If it doesn't have any TradeStation version mentioned, then that is the latest version. And if there is TradeStation version mentioned, of course, that is the download for 9.5. But I'm using the latest version of TradeStation, whatever it happens to be. Currently it is 10.0, so I'll download QElite and QElite 2. Let me do that. Click on the QElite link. It's going to download the download file, you can see at the top right hand corner, into my default download folder. For me, that happens to be download. And I am also going to click on QElite 2 to install the alternate QElite component, momentum signals. Both are downloaded. This is my default download folder. For you, it may be different. I download under my downloads folder. And these are the two components. Both are compressed files. Let's see what to do with that. We have downloaded the two components of QElite, the basic component and optional component. Then we install. Before you install, you may make sure the TraceStation version is same as that mentioned in the download file. The download file had the version 10.0 and also an update number. I will show you later. And that update number is to match with your actual TraceStation installation version and update number. If they don't match, the installation may not be successful. So we need the exact TraceStation version for which the download was created, the installation file was created. You need to have the same TraceStation version. And also you may backup your TraceStation setup. How to backup, that I covered in a previous webinar on TraceStation basics for QElite. The step-by-step installation instruction are also available on my website saganandi.com under the category Q install and then subcategory QElite install. You may refer to that. I will carry out the steps mentioned in that page today. Now, when installing QElite, you may do a fresh installation versus incremental or enhanced version release installation. Fresh installation means that you remove all the existing components first before installing the QElite. What are the possible components? They are desktop, workspace, scan, macro, study group for chart as well as for radar, then analysis techniques and even DLL. For fresh installation, it is not required to remove the QDLLs. What is the folder for QDLLs? This is under C:\program files, x86 TraceStation 10 program. I'll show you that location. It is under C:\program files. What are the QElite DLLs? Currently, there is one DLL that is created by QElite developers and installed as part of this installation, that is VL QElite AWS DLL. And then there is another DLL, global variable.dll, that is used by QElite, but it is actually provided by TraceStation. These are the two DLLs that need to be in the DLL folder for TraceStation 10. Now, I showed when I downloaded, it downloaded two compressed files, one for QElite, one for QElite 2. What to do with the content of those compressed files? If it contains ELD, that is easy language file, then import using import easy language option. And this option is under file menu of TraceStation. If it contains a TraceStation archive, TSA file, then import it using restore archive option. the backup, restore, archive option is also under file menu in TraceStation. And sometimes if the download contains other files like workspace, DLL, etc., copy them to appropriate folders. What are the folders for workspace, desktop, etc.? That I covered in the previous webinar on TraceStation Basics for QElite. For DLL, I mentioned the folder earlier here. After successful installation, depending on the monitor resolution that you are using, we go to the Q Startup workspace and apply one of the two study groups, QEdit Startup 4K or QEdit Startup Full HD. If you are using something other than 4K or Full HD, you may choose the one that is closest to your monitor resolution. And if you want, most traders don't do it, but if you want, you may further fine-tune the Q indicator sizes by editing the study QElite Startup and setting the indicator sizes on the Inputs tab. If you make changes, you may save the study group with a new name, for example, QElite Startup, and with your monitor name. So if it is Dell monitor, you may keep that monitor name in the updated study group so that you are able to use it in future. In general, if you ever make changes to anything in QElite, whether it is desktop, workspace, study group, macro, anything, if you change something and you want to save, you may save it with a different name so that when the next version of QElite is released, it does not override your changes. Always save changes if you make any with a different name. Usually I tend to add a suffix, maybe underscore Sagar, that will mention that this workspace or this desktop or study group is created by me. After installation, when you open QElite, you may open the default QElite desktop, or you may open custom desktops that you create with custom workspaces. How to create custom desktop, custom workspaces, I covered that in the other session, TraceStation Basics for QElite. I will not cover that again. But whether you are opening the default QElite desktop with all its default workspaces or your custom desktops with custom workspaces, always make sure that Q Startup workspace is the first workspace to be opened. This is required because Q Startup workspace validates the license for QElite, and it is also used to set the indicator sizes. I mentioned that earlier. I'll demonstrate all of this. So always make sure Q Startup workspace is the first workspace in your desktop. And after installation is complete, also backup once. You may validate first that everything is working as expected, and then backup once for two reasons. If anything goes wrong, you may restore from the backup. And also if you are going to use QElite on a different computer, you may restore from the backup on the second computer. You don't have to go through all the installation steps one by one again. These are the steps for installation. Let's do that one by one. First, make sure that TraceStation version is same. I see these two downloads were created for TraceStation 10 update 55. Now TraceStation sometimes changes the update numbers to 3-digit numbers, maybe 4-digit, not sure. Sometimes it uses 2-digit. Let's see what is the TraceStation version I have. if you go to TraceStation, help, under help menu, you have about TraceStation, click that. And it is TraceStation version 10 update 932. This is what I mentioned. Sometimes I see them changing the version number, but it is actually not changed from version 55. So if they match, that is great. If they do not match, you may still try to carry out the installation. If it fails, you will know that you need to update TraceStation version. This is something that TraceStation does. They actually do not change the version, but sometimes they change the update number. And after few times, few days, few logins after, you may see it come back to 55 again. Not sure why they do that, but that's fine. If they are same, if it was 55, that was great. I knew, I would know that that is exactly the same version for which the install files were created, update 55. If they are not same, as it seems to be the case here, and it seems to be a big difference, isn't it, from 55 to 932? But this is something TraceStation does. Actually, the versions are same. How to confirm that? I'll try to carry out the installation if it is successful. Specifically, if the restore archive option is successful, then I know it is for the same update, though they have changed the number. So that's good. It is different number. We came across that, and I explained that sometimes different numbers doesn't mean different TraceStation version. Maybe they will fix that in future. Now let's carry out a fresh installation. If you didn't carry out a fresh installation, then you would just go to File, use Backup Restore to restore the archive, use Import Export Easy Language to import the ELD. And why I said that? Because if I go to the QElite download file and go into the compressed file, there are two files. One is ELD, the Easy Language document file, and one is TSA archive. For ELD, we import the Easy Language, and for Elite, we import the backup. And if there are DLLs, we put them in the DLL folder. I will do all that, but before that, let me do a fresh installation. So I have TraceStation running. Before starting to clear up things, let's create a new desktop so that all these open workspaces in the QElite desktop, they don't need to get constantly refreshed with the new changes. So first open a new desktop. If QElite or any other TraceStation desktop is open, and it is opening probably on a different monitor, let me drag it. It has opened a new desktop, that is a blank desktop. Go back to whatever other desktop or desktops you have open. You may click the X at the top right hand corner, or you may go to File, Desktops, and choose Close Desktop. Usually, QTraders don't need to save anything usually, but if you wanted, you could do that. I don't need to save anything. So I'm choosing no to all. Anyway, I'm going to do fresh installation. So everything that we are seeing here will be deleted, and then we'll reinstall from the download files. So I'm not saving anything. I have now the blank desktop open. Now let's delete the existing components one by one. And I am using the same order as was mentioned in the installation PowerPoint. First desktop, if you see my mouse, first desktop, then workspace, then scan, macro, study group for chart, and then radar, and then analysis techniques. And DLL is not required. I will show you the location of the DLL file, but DLL I don't need to remove. Why this order is important? I'm starting with the topmost level and then going down to the lower levels. Let's do that. The desktops are under Documents, TraceStation 10, Desktops folder. Remember, it is not under OneDrive documents or Dropbox documents. I noticed that some traders installed QElite or rather TraceStation and Q Global or rather Metastock on OneDrive or Dropbox. Please do not do that. Please install every component of TraceStation as well as QElite and for Q Global, Metastock as well as Q Global on C drive, not on a cloud drive. That will very much slow down your performance. So I have installed on my documents folder that is under my computer, not on that cloud. So I'm going to TraceStation 10 under documents, then go to desktops, select all the desktops that have Q prefix, delete them. Next component is workspaces. Go back to TraceStation 10 again, then there is a workspaces folder, go there, highlight everything that has Q prefix, and you can see I have only workspaces with Q prefix. I use only Q systems. You may have other workspaces also. You may delete everything that has Q prefix. Okay, workspaces are deleted. Next, let's delete the scans. If you go back to TraceStation 10 folder, go to scans, go to root underscore root, and remove everything with prefix Q. All scans are deleted. So we have deleted desktops, workspaces, scans. Now let's delete the study groups. By the way, these components of TraceStation, desktop, workspaces, scan, macro study group, I covered them in the previous webinar, so I will not explaining again what they are. Before study groups, let's remove the macros. On the TraceStation menu bar, you see an option here. Sorry, not that one. Here, macros. Click on macros. All the macros with prefix Q. Select them one by one. You see, if I do shift click, it doesn't select multiple items. So do it one by one. Select the first one, remove, confirm, yes. Remove like that one by one. I'm not going to remove all of them, but if you are doing a fresh installation and you want to make sure every macro is removed, then start from the first one with Q prefix and until the last one with Q prefix, select and click remove, confirm. I am not taking time to remove all of them, but that's how we remove the macros. Once that is done, we remove the study groups. Now, study groups for radar and study groups for charts are different. For that, I have to open one instance of chart, any chart, to access the study groups, and one instance of radar. Radar, where is radar? Yeah. Any radar, any chart, that is fine. Now on the radar, right click, go to right click on the radar, not in the blank space. Right click on the radar where the indicators are there, go to studies and edit study groups. Right click on the radar, go to studies menu and edit study groups. Then you will find the Q study groups with Q prefix. And at the bottom, you will see which one is the default radar that is Q default sonar. We'll not be able to delete that unless we change the default to something else, but we don't need to. Let us remove the others. Again, if you click and shift click, it doesn't work. So you have to select one and click remove, confirm, select one, click remove, confirm, remove, confirm, remove, confirm. I'm keeping the Q default sonar because this is the default radar used by trace station at present. I could change it and remove it, but not required. So I'm keeping that. So I have removed the study groups for radar, and you see I have only Q default sonar. But if I go to charts now on the right hand panel, go to chart, right click again, studies, edit study groups. Now it will also show me a list of study groups. These are study groups for charts. So study groups for charts are accessed by right clicking on a chart application. Study group for radar is accessed by right clicking on a radar application. They are different. Again, here you are not able to click and shift click to select all of them. So again, you have to highlight the ones with Q prefix, select remove and confirm. I'm not going to remove all of them, but if you wanted to do a totally fresh installation, you will need to remove all of them one by one, from the top one with Q prefix to the bottommost one with Q prefix. I'm not doing that. That is how you clear the study groups. Once that is done, we may close this chart and radar applications. We open them only to access the study groups and remove them. Next is to remove, I'm looking at the other monitor, the analysis techniques. So study groups are groups of studies like indicator, show me, paint bar, etc. Where are these actual studies? They are under app and easy language. You go to app and easy language. It will open the easy language editor. We are not going to program anything, code anything. We are trying to remove all Q components. How to access the Q components? Under the trace station development environment that opened when I chose this option. Remember, I opened app and then easy language. When you choose the easy language, it actually opens the trace station development environment. Then there is this option open. Or if you go to file and open or press Ctrl O, it will open a list of all the studies. Make sure at the top all is selected, not function, indicator, paint bar, because we don't want to spend time deleting functions first, then indicators, then paint bars. Make sure all is selected. Click anywhere in the bottom panel near the top and start typing Q, C-U-E, and it will go to the first study with prefix Q. Now you see at the bottom this scroll bar. You move to the right and come to the place where you see the last study with Q prefix. Currently, the first one happens to be Q activity. The last one happens to be QFX zigzag. It may change over time, but whatever it is, choose the first one, click on that, like this, click on that, not click and hold. We don't want to change anything. Click the first one so that first one is selected, happens to be Q activity. Now press shift key and keep that pressed, and then click on the last one, QFX zigzag. Now everything with Q prefix is selected. Again, at the top I have selected all, so all Q Elite actual programs, actual code study, whether it's analysis technique or analysis techniques mean indicator or show me or paint bar function, everything I have selected. Now press the delete key on the keyboard. Now remember, I closed every workspace, every desktop before removing all these components. If I didn't close the workspaces, desktops, if it had charts or radar on them, every time I try to remove something, it will give me a prompt. This missing, this missing. That is very annoying. That's why make sure, as I showed, to close all open desktop, close all open workspaces, and open a blank desktop with no workspace. So I did that. Now I am coming to deleting all the easy language documents. So everything is selected. I am pressing the delete key on keyboard. It will prompt, are you sure? Click yes to all. It will take a few moments. And if everything goes all right, it will delete. Yes, it has deleted. If you go again to the top, start typing Q, CUE, and you see there is nothing with Q prefix. So we have deleted the studies. Now we can close the trace station development environment. All components of QElite are now deleted except DLL. As I mentioned, we don't need to delete DLLs, but let's see where they are located. They are under C:, program files x86. Then go to trace station 10. Go to program. You can see there are many DLLs. If you start typing VL, this is the DLL that is created and used by QElite, VL, QElite, AWS DLL. And if you search for global, GLO, just typing GLO, global variable, this DLL is supplied by trace station, but it is used by QElite. Now, if I go to the download file, you see the two same DLLs in the download file. So if the DLLs were not there, maybe I am installing QElite for the first time on a computer. These two DLLs are not there. Then you go to the download file, right click, copy the two DLLs, go to the C: program files x86 trace station 10 program folder, right click and paste. Because I have the DLLs, it will ask me to replace or not. But I'm not going to replace the same file, and trace station is running. No point trying to overwrite something while trace station is still running. The DLLs may be used, may not be used also. Let me try, no harm. Okay, it says you need admin permission. I have admin permission on my computer. Continue. For the second file, you need admin permission. Yes, it is removed. It is overwritten. That's fine. I didn't need to because they are the same as in the download folder. So now we have cleaned up everything. Let's go back to the slide. We have made sure trace station version is same. It was not same from the numbering, but we'll see if it is actually same or not based on the next step. I didn't back up, but in your computer, you may back up before the next steps. I didn't refer to the installation instructions. I know them by heart. I removed the existing components. DLLs, I overrode, it was not required. And now the next step of installation for ELD, import using import easy language, or if trace station is open, you may also double click on the ELD file. But it is safer to import from trace station file menu. I have seen for some reason for one trader's computer, if you double clicked, it didn't work. But if you use file, then import easy language. That works all the time. So we'll use that, then we'll import the TSA. DLLs we have already overwritten. Let's import the ELD and TSA now. Now they are in the downloaded zip file. Before carrying out the next step, select the two files, ELD and archive, right click, copy, go back to your download folder, right click, paste. So I am taking them out of the compressed file. Sometimes it may work even if you do it from the compressed file, but it is safer to take them out of the compressed file. How? By go to the compressed file, select the two files, right click, copy, then go to download folder and right click and paste. So I got the two files. If you double click on QElite, let's do the ELD first. If you double click on QElite, it will prompt you to import ELD. I'm canceling that. That is one way, double clicking the ELD on your folder. And as I mentioned, for one gentleman, for some reason that was not working. The safer approach is go to file, import, export easy language. Choose this option, import easy language, ELD. Click next. It will ask for a file. Choose browse. Go to your download folder. There is only one ELD. This is the one I downloaded. Select that, choose open. Now click next. Now it will show what are the different contents, function, indicator, pane bar, show me. Make sure everything is checked. Usually by default, everything is checked, but to make doubly sure, just choose select all. Here it was checked anyway, but the next page, it will show the individual components. Now you may go scroll down all the way to see everything is checked. Safer to click select all. So everything is selected, and now click the finish button. There is a prompt. There was a prompt, functions used by functions will also be imported. Choose yes. Another confirm replacement, confirmation. Anytime there is a pop-up to confirm overwriting something, anything, always choose yes or yes to all, overwrite like that, always. So let me choose yes to all. I don't want to click yes so many times. Yes to all. It is transferring all the components. Again, it is giving me a reminder, functions used by studies you selected will be automatically transferred. Always choose the affirmative answer on a dialog box. So click OK. Again, it is showing the progress bar. And now it is verifying all the programming components. Once that is done, it will say everything is successfully imported. You have successfully imported the studies. Now it is important to import the studies first before importing workspace desktops. Because even if you imported desktop workspaces, they are using study groups. The study groups are using these indicators. So indicators, if they are not present, no point importing workspaces or desktops. So that's what I did first. Imported the study groups, click OK, the dialog box will disappear. So now if I go back to apps, easy language again. If you just wanted to confirm, go back to easy language, click open. You don't need to actually. Make sure all is selected. Start typing Q and you see all the Q indicators are back, all study groups back. You don't need to do that, but this is the way to confirm that Q studies are back. Why you don't need to do that? When registration showed you the success message, that is enough. So I imported the study groups, studies, and under download, now there is another file to be imported, that is trace station archive, that is a TSA or trace station archive file. How to import that? Go back to trace station, file, choose backup, restore trace station, and restore trace station archive. We are not backing up, we are restoring from QElite archive. Choose that. We have to select the file, click browse, go to where you downloaded it. There is only one archive, QElite. Click open and make sure everything is selected. You may visually check the checkboxes, but to make sure everything is selected, I just click select all once. Then click start restore. It will give a prompt that before restore is possible, some components need to be closed. And after some time, that prompt goes away, trace station closes everything, and it restores the contents of the archive. This message should come to make sure that the restoration was successful. Restore completed successfully. If this message has not come, then something went wrong. And this is the step that confirms the version. You remember trace station 10 update 55 is actually same as the trace station version I have. I showed my actual version showing up as 3-digit number, but actually that is same as 55. It's not that from 55 to 900 something they made so many updates. It's not like that. For some reason, trace station sometimes displays 2-digit, 3-digit, sometimes 3-digit. But if this restore archive is successful, then you know that it is all right. Even if the download version shows a different update from your trace station version. So it was successful. So I know they are same. Click OK. It will probably prompt me to log in again. Let me log in. And remember, I removed all components, including desktop workspaces, but they should be back now. Yes, they are back. I had some custom desktops. That's fine. They didn't come back. I didn't expect that to come back. The one that is built in QElite install file, the QElite desktop, that is back. So we completed until this step. Install file contents and what to do with it. ELD we imported, TSA we imported, and others copy them to appropriate folder. This particular download did not have any other file other than DLL. DLLs we didn't have any workspace, so we didn't have to take care of that. So this is for QElite, the core QElite. But I also have, and most of you, if not all of you, also have access to QElite 2. So I'm not going to open QElite. Again, I'm going to open a new desktop because now I'm going to go through the steps for QElite 2. QElite is taken care of. So these two files, QElite archive, TSA, QElite, ELD, I don't need. Select them and press delete. Anyway, they are in the compressed file. I usually delete the compressed file also because if I need to, I always go back to sagarnandy.com and download the latest version. I don't like to use the version that is lying on my computer. So let me delete that one, the core QElite. Now let's look into the contents of QElite 2. It has one ELD, and now you see there are some workspaces. So I'm going to select all of them again. Go back and put them in the download folder. For QElite 2, it's an ELD file, so I could import by going to File, Import Export Easy Language. But let me demonstrate the other way. If trace station is open, then you may double click on this file also. That will open the same dialog box. After selecting the file, everything is selected. Make sure no harm clicking select all again. Next, click select all and finish. And this has all the Q2 indicators, that is the alternate momentum indicators, HSI like signals, and some other non-HSI signals are also there. Make sure you choose select all and click finish. Again, the same prompt, functions used by functions you selected will be transferred, no problem. Always reply in affirmative. So click OK. Something will be overwritten. Always confirm affirmative. So click yes to all. Again, a confirmation, click OK, and it is transferring the momentum studies. And then now verifying them. I have successfully imported the momentum studies. If I go back to the download, there was no TSF file. There were only 3 workspaces. So I have to simply copy them to the TraceStation workspace folder. So select them, copy. Let's go to TraceStation folder, that is under Documents, TraceStation 10 workspaces, right click and paste. So Q2 alternate workspaces have come. Now I have completed the installation. I don't need to keep them in my download folder, and usually I don't keep even the archive, the entire download file, because I have already installed. Once again, if I needed, I always go back to the Sagar Nandi website and download the latest version. So now I have got everything that I needed. Now let's open the desktop. Open desktop, QElite. Now, first time when you open QElite, it may not open the workspaces. Why? Because the archive file I created, somehow it remembers my directory structure. Your directory structure may be different. So when I first open QElite, if you open QElite, it will probably give me an error, one error for every workspace inside QElite. Another way is don't open the QElite desktop, open the workspaces and save them as QElite. Let me show both the ways one by one. First, let me try to open QElite. Open, and now it is trying to look at all the workspaces. Well, because I created the installation file on the same computer, the folder structure is same, so it didn't give me any error message. But if you tried it on your computer, you would probably get one error message for every workspace it is trying to open. Just say okay, 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 okay 12, 13 times, then it will come back to the QElite blank desktop. For me, again, the error didn't come because folder structure of the download file is same as this computer's folder structure. I created it on this computer. So it didn't give error message. It opened the workspaces successfully. But let me show the other way, probably the easier way. I'm closing this desktop and I'm not saving it. Close this desktop. Don't save anything. I still have the blank desktop open. Remember, we opened the blank desktop when we clear everything. Now go to File, Workspaces, Open Workspace. So I'm not opening the QElite desktop, opening the workspaces. Choose all the workspaces with Q prefix. But if you have the alternate signals, you don't need Q at a glance and at a glance 2. I'm going to keep Q at a glance 2, not the one with 2 charts, but 3 charts. Same for Q3, entry 2, and same for sonar 2, because I have the alternate signals. Choose all the ones with Q prefix. If you have the alternate signals, choose the one with alternate additional signals, momentum signals. See, all the workspaces are selected at once and click open. So I'm opening all the workspaces now under Untitled Desktop, and then I will save the desktop as QLED, override the QLED desktop. As I mentioned in the previous session on TraceStation for QLED, TraceStation basics for QLED, in real life, I may not want to open all the workspaces contained in QLED. I create custom workspaces with the chart templates, readers that I need or use the most, and the others I use by using hotkeys. But I know some traders, they have very powerful computer. They keep all the chart templates open and click through the workspaces one by one. That's also fine. That's actually a nice way to look at a stock with all the templates simply by clicking mouse. So now all the workspaces are open. It is still the Untitled Desktop, the new desktop we created. Go to File, Desktop, Save Desktop, and override QLED. Save. It already exists. Always answer in the affirmative if you are replacing. Yes, saved. Now QLED desktop is back. You see at the top left, it is showing Untitled, but it will change to QLED soon. Okay, it's changed now. I clicked somewhere and it changed. So we have now saved QLED desktop. Now if I exit TraceStation and open QLED, everything will open properly. Now let's go back to the PowerPoint. We have now completed installation of ELD, TSA, and other files, both for core QLED as well as alternate signals, momentum signals. Now, after successful installation, apply one of the study groups, QLED Startup 4K or Full HD, as appropriate for your monitor on the Q Startup workspace. When I opened all the Q workspaces, Q Startup was the first workspace by default. That's how they are numbered. And that was required because we always need to open Q Startup workspace as the first workspace. There are other ways, but this is the easiest way to use QLED. So let's go back and show that it is indeed now the first workspace. And then I will also show you the study group. This is full HD monitor. So I'll apply QLED Startup Full HD, and I will show how to further change the indicator sizes if you wanted to do that. If you see all the workspaces open at the bottom, they're like tabs at the bottom. Q0 startup is the first one. So I numbered it in such a way that when I open the workspaces, startup comes to the top. So if I select all of them, Q startup opens as the first workspace. That is required. That is the easiest way to operate QLED, because this workspace validates license and sets the indicator sizes. And they are actually set by one study. If you go to study, okay, first do the study groups. Go to studies, add study group. There are two default study groups, QLED Startup 4K and Full HD. Depending on your monitor resolution, choose the one that is closest. This is Full HD, so I should choose Full HD, but let me demonstrate. You see the sizes of the indicators on this chart, the stretch release, and also the dots on the activity bars. I think those are the settings for Full HD, but I'm showing you how the indicator sizes will change if I set it to a resolution that is different. So I'm choosing 4K for Full HD, click OK. adding the study group, you see the sizes have changed. So I am trying to use sizes appropriate for 4K on full HD. It is looking too big. Go back to study group. How I'm going there, right click on any empty place on the chart, go to studies, then add study group. And I'm setting it back to the correct one that is for this monitor for full HD. And now you see visually it is going to be correct sizing. Now, if you wanted to change the sizes further, you could right click again on any empty space, go to studies. Now don't go to study group, edit studies, go to studies. This study group, startup study group, has multiple studies. One of them is named QElite Startup. If you wanted to further fine tune the sizes of the indicators, like these dots on the activity bar, stretch release, headwind, etc., select the QElite Startup and click Customize. And you can see under Customize, there are many tabs, General, Inputs, Alerts. Go to Inputs tab. And then there are these parameters. Ignore the top one, from activity bar all the way to watermark. These are defining the sizes of different indicators. So activity bar currently set to 0. The possible values are default range for trace station 0 to 6. 0 is the smallest, 6 is the highest. So I tried to experiment with different numbers for the Q indicators, and these are the proper settings to my eyes for full HD. If you wanted to change them further, you could change it here. So headwind, if you wanted to make bigger, you could do that. If you wanted to make smaller, you could do that by increasing or decreasing the number. I'm not going to change it. If you change it here, maybe because your monitor is neither 4K nor full HD, something maybe more or something in between, I don't know. If you change it, I'm not changing, but if you changed it, you click OK and save study group. Choose the default name full HD and replace the suffix as your monitor name. That way, you will not override the default values. You will create a new study group, and that study group you may use in future if something goes wrong. But I'm not going to create a new study group. Full HD is correct for my sizing. That is how you can fine tune the sizes further. And once you do that, the sizes will be applied to all the different Q charts, all the different. You don't have to go to every chart template and change them one by one. Most QElite add-ons need you to go to every chart template one by one and adjust the size. I thought that was cumbersome. That's why we came up with this thought that you just set everything in the Q startup study group using the inputs of Q startup study, and that will change everything in all the other chart templates. And if you don't see the change, you just refresh the symbol, like I'm choosing QQQ now, and it will apply the changed sizes. And for my case, of course, I didn't actually change the sizes, so everything will look as in the default installation. So I did the downloading of 2 Q install files, QElite, QElite2, installed the components. In fact, before installing, I removed all existing components, installed them, made sure startup is the first workspace, applied the study group that is matching my monitor size. And then next step, now everything, I may check that everything is correctly appearing, and then backup. I'll not actually backup. I explained how to do backup in the previous webinar, but let's see the slide now. What is the next step in the slide? backup I am skipping. Let's do the next slide, license activation. Now for this monitor, my TraceStation login ID, in fact, not the monitor specific, but license is already activated. So everything came properly, the indicators. But if you are doing the installation for the first time, the workspaces will not display queue indicators properly. You have to activate the license for your TraceStation login ID. How to do that? We have to save the TraceStation login ID, not the network ID, not the account number, not the customer number, but the TraceStation login ID, the ID that you use to log into TraceStation platform. That ID you need to set on your personalized download page to activate the license. It is specific to not your computer, but TraceStation login ID. So once you do it, it is going to work on other computers also. You don't need to do it for every computer one by one, specific to the login ID. And this needs to be set only the first time you are installing QElite. It is not required to do it again if you are installing a newer version of QElite, because you have already set up your TraceStation login ID. Usually that doesn't change. Now, for some subscribers, it is set by me for the queue provider in the internal database. In that case, you don't need to set it up. For most traders, you will be required to set it up. For some people, I set it up on the database myself. Why? Because sometimes the personalized license control page is fully used up for activating license of other queue systems like Q Global, Q Edge, etc. So some of you have Q Global, Q Edge, Q Elite. And I covered in the previous webinar that we need one license control activation field for Q Global, one for Q Edge. And there are only two. So if you have Q Global, Q Edge, as well as Q Elite, most likely I am enabling your TraceStation login ID in the internal database myself. You don't need to do that. In those cases, I usually ask people to provide me with the TraceStation login ID and I set it in the internal database. But if you are not using global or not using Edge, then you have enough number of fields available on the license control page, and you would be required to set up the TraceStation ID on the activation page. I'll show that. Now, the next PowerPoint point, if you change your TraceStation login ID, it is not usual for people to change the TraceStation login ID, but it is technically possible. If you do that, if you change your TraceStation login ID, you may save the new ID to the same personalized page that will transfer the license to the new login ID. It's not usual, but it is possible. So I covered that. Now let's see where this is set, how this license is activated on the personalized download page. Let's go back to the download page. Remember the download page from where I downloaded QElite and QElite 2. There are two fields at the bottom, account 1 and account 2, only two. And one of them I have set with my TraceStation login ID. And please remember, even if you are using a smaller case login ID when logging into TraceStation, please fill it up with capital letter. That works. Smaller case works probably, I don't know, but it's safe to type in your TraceStation login ID in all capital. As I mentioned, there are only two fields. So if you are already using one field for Q Global, one for Q Edge, then no field is available. In that case, you don't need to set it here. I will set it for you in the internal database. But as you can see, for my account, I have a field set with my TraceStation login ID. So long as I do that, my indicators, radar, scan, everything will work properly. I already had it set. That's why indicators came as it should. If it is the first time you are installing QElite, you may have all white charts, no color coming on charts or radar. In that case, remember to go to your download and license control page, set your TraceStation ID, update the information to save it, come back to TraceStation, and sometimes you just change the symbol, it will validate the license. If that doesn't work, you may have to exit TraceStation and go back in again. I will not do that. Mostly just changing the symbol validates the license and sets the size successfully. If for some reason, if you see that is not working, you may close TraceStation and log back in. That is how you activate the license. It is not specific to your computer. It is specific to TraceStation login ID. So we did that. License is activated now. Next step, validation. Close and open TraceStation. This is required. Always good to exit TraceStation, go back in again and see everything is working. After opening OpenQElite and look at the Q charts, run a few Q scans, drop a list of stocks on Q sonar. There are different sonars or radar. If all of them are displaying properly, then your Q installation is complete. Let's go through the validation. I see the at a glance chart here, weekly, daily, and the rightmost chart, alternate chart. So the momentum level signals are also coming. And if I scroll through the other chart templates, backdrop, entry to long-term pivot, all the charts are coming. That's how you validate that all the chart templates, workspaces, study groups, everything has come. Now for the scans, there are Q scans. Remember, I deleted all Q scans, but they are back because I reinstalled. Let's run some of them. Let's run. Today market is down. Let's run go with flow short. Now these scans are not very fast. I mentioned that in the previous webinar. So I prefer to use the Q global scans in real life during market hours. But let's run it short go with flow. While it is running, I'll come back to it to confirm that short go with flow worked successfully. But let's check out the sonar. Q2 sonar, drop a number of symbols. Let's drop the Dow Jones Industrials constituents, and it is calculating the sonar. So sonar is working fine. There are multiple sonars available. This is the Q2 sonar, including Q core calculations as well as alternative HSA like momentum calculations. And so long as they are coming properly, we know calculation is successful. Let's look at some no breakout, okay, no bounce, no headwind, one box, and some go with flow. Let's look at Apple. Let's look at Apple. Chart linking with radar is on. So let's go to at a glance. Yes, it has a bearish flow in the daily. Lower high, lower low. So it has a possible go with flow short setup. I came to the chart to make sure that sonar is calculating properly. Yes, it is a possible go with flow short setup. I may not take it today because it's too close to the lower boundary. And another reason is, of course, Apple is a strong fundamental stock. There are other weaker stocks to short for me. So I may not mind shorting mega cap stocks sometimes if I see mega cap as a whole is weak. But I'll not short now. It is too close to the lower boundary, too close to the watermark support. I came here just to see that the go with flow sonar calculation was successful. That is done. I usually don't like to keep symbols loaded on Sonar. That takes too much processing time. So I click Control A and press the delete key on keyboard to delete that. Go back to scan. The scans are complete. Let's look at software programming, NTNX. Again, it is linked with at a glance. Go back there. It is successfully calculating the GOIT flow. Remember, TradeStation scans do not run on intraday candle. So it is not using today's candle to evaluate at a glance GOIT flow short, using yesterday's candle, and indeed yesterday it had a lower high, lower low, bearish flow candle. Weekly was also bearish. So it gave a possible GOIT flow short setup yesterday. Scan does not identify signals intraday, so it didn't use today's candle. Good, we demonstrated that also. So scans are successfully working, Sonar successfully working, chart successfully working. QElite installation is now complete. You may back up. Always good to back up. Why don't I do that? Go to File, Backup Restore TradeStation, Backup TradeStation. This should be a full backup. So I have set up a full backup, or you could click, if you don't have a full backup configuration, no problem. You click select all and unselect data cache. There is no point backing up data cache. We anyway cleared that up from time to time. So select all and unselect or deselect data cache. Choose a folder location. Wherever you choose the location, is a good practice to save it on cloud, not on computer, so that if computer hard disk is destroyed, you have access to the backup from the cloud. I'm doing it on the desktop for now. Start backup. It will try to close some background processes, or it's actually a message. It's a message that TradeStation will be inaccessible during backup. That's fine. If there is a prompt, always answer in the affirmative. Continue. Okay, read the message first and then answer in the affirmative. Then it will go through the backup steps for every component of TradeStation. It will take a while, few minutes maybe, or few seconds. It should give the successful message. This is required to confirm that the backup was successful. Once it is done, and you see sometimes it's good we saw this white chart. Sometimes you will see the chart became white because when we backed up and TradeStation reloaded, it probably reloaded the at a glance first, not the startup, but the startup was required to be loaded first, but for some reason it didn't. You could go to startup, change the symbol there, or probably you could go anywhere and change the symbol. It will pick up the indicator sizes, license validation, everything from the settings of startup. So long as startup is open, just change the symbol and it will plot the indicators, everything properly. So we backed it up also. You will find it under desktop. I backed it up here. You may please save it on cloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. Let's go back to the slide. So we downloaded the latest version. Made sure TradeStation version is same as the downloaded TradeStation version. If it is not same, sometimes it will still work because TradeStation changes between two digit, 3-digit versions. We'll know for sure when we actually restore the archive later, which is part of installation. I did that. License activation is through the license control page using TradeStation login ID. I showed that, validated that the installation was successful. So all the steps were completed. That's how you do a fresh or fresh install by deleting everything, or just do a install using the provided download components? That covers today's session, masterclass session on how to install QElite. The next session, let me think about the topic and the date time. Most likely I will conduct it on Thursday. Wednesday, tomorrow we have the regular webinar. Most likely I'll have it on Thursday or Friday. I'll share the detail with you soon. Thanks for joining me again, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session. Have a great day and trade profitably. Thank you.